unidentifying flying object last night.
I saw the bigger one and a spaceship, like 4 or 5 of them. It was red, green, and yellow.
Strange lights in the sky. Silent crafts are moving faster than anything we know. People say they've seen something not from this world. Could it be real? Let's find out.
They were wearing pure black. And I came down and I saw the funny man with his eyes here.
A spaceship landing spotted in Las Vegas became a chilling mystery when witnesses reported seeing a massive unknown being and a possible UFO touching down in a Las Vegas backyard. Las Vegas, April 2023. A quiet night turned into something straight out of a sci-fi horror movie. A bright green light streaked across the sky, witnessed by more than 20 people across California, Nevada, Arizona, and Utah. Then, something crashed. Moments later, a terrified family called 911, claiming they saw strange creatures in their backyard, tall, thin figures, at least 8 to 10 feet high, with greenish skin. They weren't just passing by, they were hiding, watching. One of them, the family said, was crouched behind their forklift, its massive face, wide eyes, and eerie mouth, making it look anything but human. The call came from Angel Kenmore, who later shared his footage online, titled, "I had aliens in my backyard." His voice shook as he described what he saw: long limbs, strange feet, a presence so unnatural it made his blood run cold. The family's reaction was instant. They panicked and ran. But were they alone that night? Veteran crime scene analyst Scott Roeder didn't think so, and he was determined to prove it. Roeder, known for working on high-profile cases like the Oscar Pistorius trial, took the viral footage and examined it frame by frame. What he found left him speechless. In just a fraction of a second, something appeared over the fence. A head, smoke swirling around it. Not a trick of light, not a camera glitch. He called it a cloaking device, something straight out of the impossible. "This is real," he said. "These entities are here." Teaming up with Jim Quirk from the Extraterrestrial Reality podcast, Roeder went even further, recreating the backyard scene to understand what really happened that night. But there was more. A second figure, barely visible, hiding in the shadows. It wasn't just the family reacting to nothing. They saw something, and now the footage seemed to confirm it. Many had dismissed the video as a hoax, a misunderstanding, a trick of the eye. But Roeder stood by his findings. He had used the same techniques he would in any homicide case. The evidence, he said, was there. What couldn't be answered was the most chilling part of all. "Who are they?" he asked. "Where did they come from? And what do they want? This isn't over, not even close." After the shocking sighting in Las Vegas, the Phoenix Lights, 1997, took things even further when thousands saw strange lights over Phoenix, Arizona, fueling unidentified flying object debates like never before. On March 13th, 1997, something strange lit up the night sky over Arizona. It wasn't just a few people who saw it, thousands did. A massive V-shaped formation of glowing lights moved silently overhead, stretching for miles. Witnesses described it as eerie, controlled, and like nothing they had ever seen. From the Nevada state line all the way down to Tucson, reports poured in. Some said they saw orbs. Others swore the lights were attached to something solid, a craft so huge it blocked out the stars. Whatever it wasn't behaving like any known aircraft. The first sighting started around 7:30 p.m. in Henderson, Nevada. A former police officer in Paulden, Arizona, saw it next. Then, the lights moved over Prescott Valley, Glendale, and Phoenix. People watched in shock as the glowing formation passed overhead, completely silent. Some were convinced they were looking at a UFO. Others just knew it wasn't normal. Even Hollywood actor Kurt Russell, flying into Phoenix that night, spotted the lights from his plane and reported them to air traffic control. Their response? There was nothing on the radar. Whatever was in the sky, it wasn't supposed to be there. Then, the lights came back just when it seemed to be over. Around 10 p.m., a different set of glowing orbs appeared, this time hovering in place over Phoenix. They were bright, steady, and seemed to float motionless for a long time before slowly fading out. Some people swore they could see a massive shape behind them, as if the lights were part of something bigger. Others thought they were separate objects. But one thing was clear: this wasn't just a trick of the light. The reaction was immediate. Emergency lines flooded with calls, and news stations scrambled to cover the story. The sighting became one of the most widely witnessed unidentified flying object events in history. The military stepped in with an explanation: flares. They claimed that fighter jets had dropped them during a training exercise. They also said the V-shaped lights were simply aircraft flying in formation. But that explanation didn't feel right for those who stood outside that night, staring up in disbelief. Even now, years later, people still wonder what really happened. Were they just flares, military planes, or was it something else, something not from this world? Whatever it was, the Phoenix Lights remain one of the biggest mysteries in unidentified flying object history. Next up, the Roswell incident, 1947, remains one of the most famous unidentified flying object mysteries in history, beginning with a strange object crashing near Roswell, New Mexico, and leading to wild speculation about recovered alien bodies. In the summer of 1947, something strange crashed on a quiet ranch near Roswell, New Mexico. The world was already buzzing with talk of flying saucers, and then suddenly, a shocking headline appeared: RAF captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell region. The US Army had just announced that they had found a mysterious flying disc, but almost as quickly as the news spread, the story changed. The military took it back, saying it wasn't a flying saucer at all, just a weather balloon. Mac Brazel, the rancher who first found the wreckage, wasn't convinced. He had seen weather balloons before, and what lay scattered across his land was different. Pieces of strange, lightweight material, almost like foil, didn't burn or break easily. There were rubber strips and odd wooden beams, but nothing that made sense. When Brazel reported it, the military arrived fast, collected the debris, and took it away. Some people whispered that they had also taken something else, something alive. For years, the Roswell story faded. Then, in 1980, a book came out claiming the weather balloon story was a lie. According to the authors, the wreckage had been secretly taken to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio, and a fake weather balloon was put in its place. More witnesses began speaking up. Some said they saw alien bodies being recovered. Others claimed the government had forced people to stay silent. Documents surfaced, supposedly proving a secret group called Majestic 12 had been created to hide the truth. Then came the infamous alien autopsy video in 1995, showing what looked like military doctors examining a small, lifeless creature. But later, the filmmaker admitted it was fake. Still, the rumors didn't stop. People wanted answers. In 1994, the United States Air Force finally admitted the crash wasn't a weather balloon, but part of Project Mogul, a top-secret operation using high-altitude balloons to spy on Soviet nuclear tests. Then, in 1997, another report suggested that stories of alien bodies may have come from people who had seen crash test dummies or burned pilots from an unrelated plane crash. But even with these explanations, many still believe the real truth is hidden. Was it really a top-secret balloon? Or was something not from this world recovered that day? Whatever happened, Roswell remains the most famous, unidentified flying object mystery of all time. Following the mystery of the Roswell incident, another chilling event unfolded with the Rendlesham Forest incident, 1980, where US military personnel claimed to have seen a unidentified flying object land in an English forest. Something strange happened in Rendlesham Forest in December 1980. And even after all these years, no one can explain it. This quiet stretch of woods sat between two US Air Force bases in England. But for 2 nights, it became the center of something unearthly. What really happened remains a mystery, hidden behind silence and secrecy. But the stories from those who were there are astonishing. Just after midnight, on December 26th, military radar picked up something unusual moving in the sky. Whatever it was, it soon disappeared into the forest. Soldiers were sent to check, and what they found left them shaken. A glowing triangular craft stood on 3 legs, about 10 feet across, pulsing with strange lights. As they watched, it lifted its landing legs and floated effortlessly through the trees. The men ran after it, chasing it into a field, but suddenly it shot straight up into the sky. A powerful beam of light shone down on them, and in an instant, everything went black. When they woke up, they were back in the forest, disoriented and confused. Those sent to find them discovered strange marks in the ground, as if something heavy had rested there. The next night, more lights appeared. This time, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Holt, the deputy base commander, led a larger group into the woods. Using special equipment, he recorded high levels of radiation at the landing site. Then, something even stranger happened. A glowing red light hovered in a thick mist, flickering as if it was alive. Suddenly, it moved toward them, flashing colors like a rainbow. In another part of the forest, a smaller group of soldiers spotted a domed craft, its surface glowing, and inside, dark figures seemed to be moving. For over an hour, strange lights darted through the trees, appearing and disappearing before anyone could get close. Rumors spread that photos and videos were taken, but officials denied everything. Some whispered that there had been an encounter, not just with a craft, but with something inside it. Even a United States senator looked into the case, but never revealed what he found. The truth remains locked away, leaving behind only the words of those who saw it. Something was out there, and for 2 nights, it made itself known. Next up, another bizarre case shook the world. The Kelly Hopkinsville Encounter, 1955, where a Kentucky family claimed to fight off goblin-like creatures all night. On a warm summer night in 1955, a family in rural Kentucky ran into a police station, terrified and out of breath. Their faces told a story of pure fear. They claimed something had been attacking their farmhouse for hours, something not human. They weren't just seeing things, they said. They had been shooting at small, strange creatures that kept peeking into their windows and lurking at the door. But no matter how many times they fired, the creatures wouldn't fall. Instead, they seemed to float when hit, like bullets had no effect on them. The family was desperate. They needed help. Within minutes, officers, state troopers, and even military police from Fort Campbell rushed to their farmhouse near Kelly, Kentucky. They expected to find a gang of intruders, maybe some wild animals. But when they arrived, there was nothing. No bodies, no footprints, just scattered bullet holes in doors and windows. The family swore they weren't lying. They insisted the creatures had been there, and they had fought them for nearly 4 hours. Then, just before sunrise, the attacks suddenly stopped. The house belonged to Glennie Langford and her family, including her sons, their wives, and a couple of friends who were visiting. One of them, Billy Ray Taylor, had been outside earlier that evening when he saw something streak across the sky, bright and fast. Moments later, the creatures appeared. They were small, no taller than a child, with glowing yellow eyes, long ears, clawed hands, and thin, wiry legs. They didn't walk, they floated, they didn't break in. They simply watched from the darkness, slipping in and out of view. News spread quickly. Papers called them little green men, though the family never mentioned their color. Skeptics claimed they had been drinking, but no real proof of that was ever found. Some believed the creatures were just great horned owls, known for their glowing eyes and silent flight. Others said the bright light Billy Ray saw was nothing more than a meteor. Scientists dismissed the story, calling it a case of fear and imagination running wild. Still, UFO researchers insisted something happened that night. Strange glowing patches were found near the house, and a greenish light flickered in the woods. The case became legendary and debated for decades. The family left their home the next day, too shaken to stay. Whatever had been out there, they wanted no part of it. Strange encounters kept surfacing, and the Lonnie Zamora incident, 1964, was no different. A New Mexico police officer spotted an egg-shaped craft and two small figures. It was supposed to be just another shift for Officer Lonnie Zamora. The sun hung low in the sky on April 24, 1964, when he chased a speeding car outside Socorro, New Mexico. But then, something strange happened. A deafening roar, a sudden flash of blue and orange flames. His attention snapped toward the southwest, where something bright shot into the sky. For a second, he thought a dynamite shack had exploded. Forgetting the car chase, he turned off the road, driving toward the source of the blast. What he found would change his life forever. Down in the rocky desert, something silver and smooth sat on the ground. At first, it looked like a crashed car flipped onto its side, but as he got closer, he realized this was no ordinary vehicle. It was oval, bright like aluminum, and strangely quiet. Two small figures stood beside it, dressed in white. They didn't seem alarmed. He couldn't make out their faces, but they looked like small adults or large children. Before he could process what he was seeing, a roar split the air. Flames erupted from beneath the object, and it began to rise. Startled, Zamora ran for cover, shielding his eyes as it shot upward and disappeared. Heart pounding, he radioed for help. The dispatcher, Nep Lopez, could hear the unease in his voice. Zamora asked if anything was visible in the sky, but there was nothing. Minutes later, New Mexico State Police Sergeant Chavez arrived to find a shaken Zamora staring at scorched brush. Other officers soon joined them. The ground was burned, the grass still smoldering, but there was no sign of the strange object or the two figures. News spread fast. Reporters, unidentified flying object investigators, and even the United States Air Force's Project Blue Book got involved. Some believed Zamora had witnessed a top-secret lunar landing test from White Sands Missile Range. Others dismissed it as a prank by students from New Mexico Tech. A few skeptics even suggested he had mistaken a bright star for a spaceship. Years passed, but no solid explanation ever came. Socorro embraced the mystery. A walkway was built near the site, and in 2012, a mural was painted to honor Zamora's sighting. He never changed his story. Until the day he died in 2009, he stood by what he saw: a strange craft, a flash of fire, and two figures that were anything but ordinary. As if things couldn't get stranger, the Ariel School sighting, 1994, left dozens of school children in Zimbabwe claiming they saw a UFO and mysterious beings. It was an ordinary morning at Ariel School in Rua, Zimbabwe. The sun shone brightly as children ran across the playground, laughing, playing, unaware that their lives were about to change. Then, suddenly, everything stopped. A strange, silver object floated down from the sky, landing just beyond the school's fence, in tall grass and small trees. Some children stood frozen, others stepped closer, curious, and then they saw them. Small figures dressed in black stepped out of the craft. Their eyes were large, dark, watching. Some children ran in fear, but others stayed, unable to look away. For a few moments, time seemed to stop. The figures didn't speak, at least not with words, but the children heard them, felt their voices inside their heads. A warning, a message about the planet, about the future. The Earth was in danger, they said. Humans were harming it, and something terrible would happen if they didn't change. The children listened, not understanding everything, but feeling its weight. And then, just as quickly as they had arrived, the figures turned and stepped back into the shining craft. In a flash of light, they were gone. When the break ended, the children rushed back inside, shouting, telling their teachers what had happened. But the adults didn't believe them. It was just their imagination, a trick of the light, a game. But the children wouldn't stop talking. They told their parents, and the next day, many parents came to the school, demanding answers. Soon, the story spread. Reporters arrived, filming interviews. Unidentified flying object investigators, even a professor from Harvard, came to hear what the children had seen. The children drew pictures, their stories matching in eerie detail. Some said it was just a case of mass hysteria, children influencing each other. Others thought it was a prank, a story that got out of control. Some skeptics said it was nothing more than a dust storm or a trick of the mind. But the children never changed their story. Even years later, they remembered those dark figures, those strange eyes, the silent voices warning them of a future they could not yet understand. Some say it was a moment of fear. Others believe it was a message that should never be forgotten. Whatever it was, it left something behind, a question no one could ever truly answer. Before that, the Betty and Barney Hill abduction, 1961, shocked the world when the couple claimed they were taken aboard a spacecraft in New Hampshire, making it one of the first famous alien abduction cases. Barney and Betty Hill were driving down a lonely road in New Hampshire late at night, heading home from a trip. The sky was dark, the road was quiet, and everything felt normal, until Betty spotted something strange in the sky. It was a bright light, moving in a way that didn't make sense. At first, she thought it was a star, maybe even a plane. But as they kept driving, the light grew bigger, moving erratically, flashing colors. Something about it felt wrong. She told Barney to stop the car. They got out, staring at the strange object as it hovered in the sky. Barney grabbed his binoculars. What he saw made his blood run cold. A massive, silent craft floated above them. Through the windows, figures stood watching. They weren't people. Their dark eyes locked onto him. Then suddenly, the figures moved, all except one. That one stayed, looking straight at him. And then, without a sound, a message filled Barney's mind. "Stay where you are. Keep looking." Panic surged through him. He turned and ran back to the car. Betty was already shouting, telling him to drive. A strange beeping sound filled the air as they sped down the highway. Then everything went black. When they came to, they were miles down the road, confused and dazed. The trip home felt like a blur. Something had happened, but they couldn't remember what. Their watches had stopped working. Their car had strange, shiny marks on it. Betty's dress was torn and covered in a strange pink powder. Barney's shoes were scuffed, his binocular strap broken. Something about that night wasn't right, but the memories wouldn't come. Then Betty started having strange dreams. Night after night, she saw figures in blue uniforms leading them through the woods. She saw bright lights, felt hands touching her, strange tests being done. She tried to push the dreams away, but they wouldn't leave her mind. Something happened that night, something they couldn't explain, and no matter how long time passes, they can never forget it. Years later, the Chicago O'Hare Unidentified Flying Object Sighting, 2006, added to the mystery when airport employees saw a metallic, saucer-shaped craft hovering over the airport before suddenly shooting into the sky. It was a regular afternoon at Chicago O'Hare Airport, one of the busiest airports in the world. Flights were coming and going, workers were busy on the ground, and everything was running as usual. Then, at 4:15 p.m., something happened that no one expected. A United Airlines worker, helping a plane back from Gate C-17, looked up and froze. Hovering above the plane was a metallic, saucer-shaped object. silent, motionless, something that shouldn't be there. Word spread fast. More airport workers rushed outside, pilots, supervisors, mechanics. Nearly a dozen of them stood there, staring at the strange craft. It wasn't a plane. It wasn't a drone. It was round, dark gray, and between 6 and 24 feet wide. A perfect, solid object just hanging in the sky. Outside the airport, other people saw it too. One witness said it wasn't a cloud or a trick of light. It was real. Then suddenly, it shot straight up, fast. So fast that it left a gaping hole in the clouds, a perfect blue circle. Within moments, the hole closed as if nothing had happened. Air traffic control never saw it. Radar never picked it up. Officially, it wasn't there, but too many people had seen it with their own eyes. When reporters asked questions, United Airlines and the FAA acted like they knew nothing. It wasn't until the Chicago Tribune filed a legal request that records were found. A United Airlines supervisor had reported the sighting to an FAA manager. Even then, the FAA brushed it off, calling it a weather phenomenon. Some scientists suggested it could have been a rare cloud formation, but those who saw it weren't buying that explanation. The story made headlines. News stations across the country picked it up. Television shows investigated it. Some workers at O'Hare were frustrated. How could something unknown hover over a major airport, witnessed by so many, and no one cared to look into it? Whatever it was, it came and went in seconds, leaving behind nothing but shaken witnesses, unanswered questions, and a mystery still talked about today. In the last encounter, the Nimitz Unidentified Flying Object Encounter, 2004, stunned United States Navy pilots as they recorded a tic-tac-shaped object moving strangely off the coast of California. The sky was clear, the ocean calm, and everything seemed normal, until radar picked up something strange. It was November 14, 2004, and the USS Nimitz Carrier Strike Group had been tracking mysterious objects for 2 weeks off the coast of Southern California. These things would appear, vanish, and then appear miles away in seconds. No one could explain it. But on that day, radar finally locked onto one. It was time to see it up close. Commander David Fravor, a highly trained Navy pilot, was sent to check it out. As he soared through the sky in his F-18, he spotted something impossible. A pure white, smooth object shaped like a giant tic-tac. No wings, no engines, no visible way of staying in the air. Yet, there it was, moving fast, reacting to him as if it knew he was watching. Fravor tried to get closer, but the object took off before he could. Not just moving away, gone, in a blink, like a bullet fired from a gun. Seconds later, radar picked it up again, 60 miles away. A second pilot, Chad Underwood, was sent after it. His plane's infrared camera caught a grainy video, now famous, showing the tic-tac hovering, rotating, and then speeding off again. What made it worse? His radar started acting up. The tic-tac wasn't just avoiding detection, but jamming his sensors. That wasn't normal. That was technology far beyond anything humans had. At first, the incident didn't make headlines. The Navy didn't investigate. The footage stayed buried. But years later, the video leaked online. It barely got attention. Then, in 2017, everything changed. The New York Times published a report exposing a secret government program studying unidentified flying objects. The tic-tac video was undeniable proof that something unknown was in the skies, outmaneuvering the world's most advanced fighter jets. Congress took notice. The Pentagon had to respond. New investigations began, searching for answers. In 2024, experts still debate what Fravor and his team saw that day. Some believe there's a simple answer. Others say the tic-tac was not from here. The truth? It's still out there, waiting. The sky holds many secrets, and some stories are too strange to ignore. People have seen things they can't explain. Silent crafts, fast-moving lights, creatures not like us. Maybe one day we'll finally know the truth.